Hey everybody, welcome into episode 56 of my YouTube journey. In this episode, we're going to talk about Henry Hank Aaron. He is one of my all-time favorites. He is the guy that I respect so much. I've prepped like crazy for this episode because I want to do his story justice. This book right here, I think I've read it 3 times. It's a fantastic book. Pick it up. It's very in-depth, but I've also watched YouTube videos of interviews with him over the years. I've really prepped for probably about 6 weeks on this one. So I hope I do him justice because he's worthy of his story being told. He has been just narrowed down to one event in his life, and that was hitting home run number 715, and that's unfair to him in a way. You've got to break down who he was as a person. You got to look at his background. You got to dive into his why. And so when you really do that, you realize what a man of integrity and a man of character he was. And again, I just have the utmost respect for him. So who is Henry Aaron, and why do we need to talk about him? Well, first off, he is known for breaking Babe Ruth's record and hitting 755 home runs is where he ended his career. He's known for that. And if you really think about it, what is the most hollowed record in sports? I mean, when I was a kid, there were different numbers. You know, you had the 56-game hitting streak by Joe DiMaggio. You had Hank Aaron breaking Babe's record, hitting 755. What else? You had the last time someone hit 400 was Ted Williams, and when he hit 406. So you knew these numbers. You knew that that Roger Maris held the single season home run record. And what has happened over the years, in my opinion, those numbers have been cheapened by guys that cheated. So I just put it bluntly, and it really irritates me. So if you look at Hank Aaron and who he was and what he represents in the game, Jackie Robinson, he was the first, so you just say the alpha, and then Henry Aaron was the last, he's the omega. And we'll see why in just a minute. Jackie Robinson was a huge person in Henry Aaron's life, and he really was somebody who really inspired him of what he could be one day. And so we'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then at the end, we're going to look at some cards. Hang in there for that. I've got a card that I am so proud of owning. Out of all the cards in my collection, the one I'm going to show you, I have never shown on my channel before. Stay tuned for that one. It's an extremely special card. So let's jump into Henry Aaron. He was born in the Deep South, Mobile, Alabama, and he grew up there in that segregated society back in the day that so many people of color had to deal with. And he was one of, I think there was 8 children. And so it was a big household, didn't have a lot of money. When he was a little boy, they moved to Tumlinville, which is kind of a suburb of Mobile, a little north. And it was a poor area. Mainly African Americans lived there. So he recalls, knowing his place in society. Back in those days, if you were a black person, a black male especially, and you were walking down a sidewalk, if a white man was walking towards you, you were to give way and back up and get against the wall and let him walk by and stop. If there was a white woman walking by, you weren't expected to just do that. You had to step in the street and make way. You knew not to make eye contact. He grew up in a society when him and his dad were in a general store and they were in line and a white man walked in. It didn't matter if they were all the way to the register. They were to step aside and let that man get in front of them. So there were reminders on a daily basis where he was in society's pecking order. And it was unfair. I mean, it's absolutely unfair. In today's world, I can't imagine living in a society like that, but that was absolutely the case in the South and the North and all over. But that's how he grew up. His dad worked in a shipyard as a riveter, and made a decent wage, but still they were down in that poverty level. They lived in a little home there, and it's still standing. I'll show you a picture right here. They have moved it to a minor league ballpark that since then the team went defunct, and the house sits there. It's the Henry Aaron Museum, and you can go visit it. I'm not sure what the hours are and stuff like that, but he remembers as a boy, he would always be outside. He'd have a broom handle or a broken pool stick or something like that, and they would find anything. They would roll up rags to use as a ball. Sometimes they would use bottle caps and flip them, and you had to try to hit the bottle cap. But anything you could do to try to make a baseball game, that's what him and his buddies did. He had a couple of brothers, and they'd be out in the yard. He remembers being out in the yard. I saw this in an interview on YouTube. He remembers being out in the yard, and it's kind of dusk, and his mother yells for the boys to get inside. And they're like, "What, Mom? We're just playing." She said, "Get inside now." And he could tell by the sound of her voice, they had to go inside, lay down flat in their rooms, try to get underneath their beds, and then they would hear it was the Ku Klux Klan walking down the street with torches. So he knew really easily. And so what his dad taught him and his siblings were in that society, you didn't do anything to bring attention to yourself. You just did your job. You didn't do too much. You didn't do too little. You just tried to blend in. And that's exactly how Henry Aaron lived his life. On the ball field, he strived for excellence in everything he did. He wasn't going to cheat the game. He wasn't going to do anything like that, but he was going to just do his daggum best. He was going to show up for work every day, but he wasn't going to be too flashy. He was just going to play the game the right way. He learned that at a very young age. When he was a little boy, he shared a bed with his two brothers. And above the bed, there hung a sign. It said, I wrote that down right here. It said, "Rely on God and act on things you can change." And that was the motto that they lived by. When he was a little boy, he wanted to be a pilot. And he wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. And his dad told him, "You can't do either. You're the wrong color. You need to get another thing that you want to be." And Henry just wouldn't let go of that. And so in 1947, when Jackie Robinson broke in with the Dodgers, it sent ripples all across the country, especially of kids of color. And he would have been 13 years old. And at that moment in time, the reality that he could indeed be a Major League Baseball player really stuck home to him. And he told his dad at that moment, he said, "I'm going to make the major leagues, and I will do it before Jackie Robinson retires because I want to be on the field with him one day." And so I'm sure his dad was thinking, "Oh yeah, okay, whatever." He absolutely set that as a goal. So he played sports, he played football, he played baseball. When he was in high school, when he was 14 years old though, the Brooklyn Dodgers came through Mobile playing some exhibition games. And Jackie Robinson was going to be on the street corner in front of a local pharmacy speaking to a group of kids. Hank Aaron skipped school that day. He went down there. He was in the crowd for that speech. Jackie said something along the lines of what you'd expect him to say. He was a veteran. He was college educated. So he implored upon those kids to get an education. That's where it's going to make the difference. You know, be a good citizen, all those things. And it was just, Hank Aaron was in awe. And that night for the game, he didn't have enough money to get a ticket. And I heard Bob Costas say this. He said that Henry Aaron told him he climbed a tree and watched in the stadium so he could see Jackie Robinson in the flesh in that uniform. So that was a big high water level moment for him as a child. The only problem is he didn't hear what Jackie told him. The education part, he really wasn't interested in school. So his sophomore, junior year, he missed 40 days of school. He just skipped. He didn't care nothing about it. All he wanted to do was play baseball. And so he got suspended from the local public school there. So he ended up having to go to a private school. They didn't have baseball. But his junior year, he joined in with a team. It was the Pritchard Athletics. And then later on with the Mobile Black Bears, where he got paid per game. It was a semi-pro team made up of black kids and black men, actually. He would have been the youngest one. He would have been about 16 years old playing on that team. And he was a beast. Like, the way he was an infielder, he played third, he played short, he played second. Tall, skinny kid. He's about 6 feet tall. Went about 170. Was not a big muscular guy, but the ball jumped off his bat. And so being around the game a little bit with my cousin with the Minnesota Twins, we used to be able to get in the dugout during spring training. And I remember one time sitting on the bench and I just heard this sound of a bat. And somebody was hitting, during BP. And I asked the third base coach for the Twins, Scotty Olger was who I was talking to. And I said, "Who is that?" He said, "It's some kid that washed out. He had some drug issues and he's coming back now with the Cincinnati, with the Reds." And, and it was Josh Hamilton. The bat sounded different. He was launching them over the palm trees down there. And so I've heard that before, and it's a very distinctive sound. The bat sounds different. That was Henry Aaron. And so during that time when he was playing, he had caught the eye of several scouts, but one being Ed Scott. And he had seen this kid. He started following him when he was about 16 years old. And he reaches out to several Negro League teams and gets the ear of the Indianapolis Clowns. And so Hank Aaron gets signed by the Indianapolis Clowns in December of 1951. He would have been 17 years old. His mother was a big presence there, and she was a typical mom. She was very protective over her kids. And Ed Scott and Henry Aaron were scared for him to go talk to the mom because they knew she would have been saying, "No, he needs to get an education." But Henry Aaron wanted to play ball. So he didn't graduate high school. Midway through his senior year, he goes off. So in March of 1952, he leaves for Lynchburg, Virginia, to go. It was Winston-Salem. He went to meet the Indianapolis Clowns. So there's a famous picture right here of him standing on the train platform. And at that moment in time, if you look closely at that picture, there's a little satchel. He's got his pants pleated. He's ready to go. And you think, man, that's awesome. He's going off on a journey. You got to realize at this point in time who he is, okay? He's a kid, poor kid from Mobile, Alabama. He has never, can't emphasize that enough, never had a conversation with a white person in his life. He's never, honestly, if he's never done that, he's never been inside of a white person's home. He's never been outside of Mobile. So here he is standing on a train platform, scared to death. How is he he's never been on a train. So he's about to get on a train. He had $1.50 in his pocket. Inside of that satchel right there are 2 sandwiches his mom made, a baseball and a baseball glove. That's it. That's what he left town with. And he had to get all the way there. So he gets there. They do like a spring training thing. And ironically, his first pro game for the Indianapolis Clowns is in Nashville, Tennessee, at the old Sulphurdale Park there. That is where the Nashville Vols played. And Nashville for years had a Negro League team there. But you got to realize this is 1952. So during 1952, the Negro Leagues are about dead. The main team that people of color pay attention to, the actual favorite team, is the Brooklyn Dodgers, because you got Campanella, you've got Jackie, obviously, you've got Don Newcomb, and by now, I guess in 52, with Jim Gilliam would have been there, I guess. So it's the team that the black population really follow and love. So pretty much the Negro Leagues are dead. They're on life support. And so Jackie goes, he plays for 2 months, is all he plays before the Major League scouts come a-calling. Ed Scott had been starting a letter campaign from the time he hit that team with the Indianapolis Clowns. And he starts a letter writing campaign to scouts. And there's 2 teams that really get on to Henry Aaron at that point. The main two, one is the Boston Braves, who later become Milwaukee Braves in Atlanta. And then the other one is the New York Giants. So Henry's got two contracts in front of him. He can sign with the Giants or he can sign with the Braves. The Giants were offering him $50 a month less than the Braves, so he signed with the Braves. Imagine if it would have been flipped and you would have had Hank Aaron and Willie Mays on the same team for all those years. It would have been insane. So he gets signed by the Boston Braves. At that point in time, they sent him to Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And so he's up north. He walks into that town. And if you look at the census, there's less than 1% of the population is black. So I was watching an interview with him and he's talking about, he's like, I'm walking down the street and people are like stopping and looking at me like I'm an animal in the zoo. Like they've never seen a black person before. He said, so here I am. I'm in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. He's playing for that team up there and it's low A's. And I don't know for a fact that there's any black guys on his team. I think there might have been one or two. So anyways, he's thrown into the kettle up there and basically he's there for a short season and he ends up just killing it. Makes the All-Star team. I can't remember if he got the MVP of the league or not, but he absolutely killed it. And he hit like 360. He becomes a huge part of the Braves' plans. So he goes home, waits around till next spring. In next spring training, he shows up to play for now the Milwaukee Braves because they're moving. So in the spring of 1953, he is told he's going to go play for the Jacksonville Braves in the Sally League. Now, the Sally League had been around a long time. In fact, Ty Cobb, what played for the first year the Sally League was in existence in the early 1900s. But in 1953, the Sally League had never had any black people in the whole league. So Henry and two other players of color integrate the Sally League in 1953. Now he's in the Deep South. That league consists of teams in South Carolina, Georgia, and Northern Florida. So he's having to travel around. So in each one of these cities where he goes and plays, they have never seen an integrated game because in those states, up until that point, it was illegal for blacks to play against whites in an organized baseball game. So in one occasion, it's somewhere in Georgia, it's the first integrated game in history there because remember, the Braves aren't there yet. And so there's no teams in the South, any major league teams. And so the game gets stopped. People are throwing things on the field. The police have to come in and circle the field and regain order. That's one of the biggest issues that people are scared of when integration happens inside the game. I talked about this in my Jackie Robinson episode. What was scary was when you had black fans coming with white fans, and what if Henry Aaron takes one in the temple by a white pitcher? Are the black fans going to riot? What if Hank Aaron is covering second on a double play and a white player comes in and just barrel rolls him and takes his knee out? What's going to happen then? Those were all the fears. So they were told not to question the umpires, not to talk back to the fans. Just do what you got to do, play the game hard, but get out of there without making any waves. Now, one other thing I need to mention. He was not, much like the Jackie Robinson story, he was not allowed in spring training or while he was playing in the Sally League to stay in the hotels with the rest of his teammates. The black guys on the team had to stay in the African-American area of town, had to stay in a black family's boarding house or at a black hotel, but they had to have special arrangements. So they didn't have the off-the-field camaraderie that you have in a team. They didn't have the nights in the hotel playing cards and stuff like you normally have with a team. And that was a big part of playing on a team. Those are the things you remember. So Hank didn't have that. He had racism right in his face, right? So what does he do? He does the same thing Jackie Robinson did his rookie year when he was facing all the racism. He excelled. He was the MVP of the league. He played so well that, like Hank Aaron said in an interview I watched on YouTube, he said, if somebody had a season like that nowadays, they would have been signed to a huge contract and would have been in the league the next year because they knew they could make a difference. But that wasn't the case. Henry had to go play winter ball, and when he was there, he ran across Mickey Owen. And Mickey Owen was, a major leaguer, and he taught him some things about his hitting stance. He taught him some things about how to hit the ball to, get into pulling the ball, see some more of that power. And so that made a big difference on him. So he shows up in 1954. Now, the Braves really know who he is. When he's in the cage hitting, it talks about the coaches are whispering. They're never going to, say it out loud, but they're all giddy with what they see him going to be. So he is still earmarked for AAA. They aren't going to start him off in the major leagues. They had picked up Bobby Thompson from the Giants to play left field for them. And so they had sunk a lot of money investing in him. So Hank Aaron really ain't got a spot in the outfield. So Bobby Thompson, this is one of those fate things. He slides into a base in spring training, breaks his ankle or leg one, and he's out for the season. So at that point, Hank Aaron is going to have a spot on the opening day roster. So he's going to go to Milwaukee. He's this tall, skinny kid with a lot of power, very raw in the field. So one of the things about growing up, remember, he's still young. So in 1954, he's still 20 years old. He hadn't had a lot of coaching other than in that Braves minor league system. Growing up in Mobile, he would have got some coaching from a few of the older guys. But as far as fundamentals, he didn't know a lot of them on a high level, especially to play in the major leagues. So he was a little shaky in the infield. He was a little shaky with his base running. He'd make base running errors. But one of the things that Henry talks about in an interview that I watched with him was how thankful he was to the people of Milwaukee. He absolutely loved the people there because he was allowed to make mistakes. He said he never remembered one time getting booed. Even when he made a blunder on the base pass and cost him an inning, and then they had to go back out in the field. Nobody ever booed him because at that time, Milwaukee was in that honeymoon era. All the people were so happy to have a major league team there. Those guys were rock stars, and so they were sweet people. They treated him with respect. He didn't hear all the cat calls, the racism, and things like that. But again, with the Braves even, there were restaurants he couldn't eat inside of. He couldn't stay at the team hotel, even then in spring training. And that became an issue later. He started being one of the first black players to stand up for his rights and demand that they be treated as equal. And if the Braves, wouldn't use their power at that town that they were doing spring training in, they were wrong. They could say, look, we'll take our team somewhere else. We'll spend our money somewhere else. You're going to have to let our black players stay in these hotels. So he kind of stood up for that later. So 1954 rolls around. He rolls into his rookie season. And again, this skinny, tall kid, he's wearing number 5. It's the only year he wore that number. And late in the season, he breaks his ankle. So he ends his rookie year hitting, I've got it right here. He hits 13 home runs, hits 280 in 122 games before fracturing his ankle. In 1955, he comes back, and that's when he's issued number 44. Now they know he is the future of the Braves. They can see it. He's that big a prospect. In 1956, he wins his first batting title. And in 1957, he has one of those huge seasons. The Braves were a really good roster back then. They had Warren Spahn, they had Sane, they had Joe Adcock, they had Matthews. So they were loaded. And so it was the best teams he would ever play on. And so early in his career is when he gets a chance to play in some playoff games, in some World Series. And he excelled in those. In fact, in 1957, he wins the NL MVP. He barely misses out on the Triple Crown, and he hits this walk-off home run right here that wins them the pennant, and ends up sending them to the World Series against the Yankees.
The pitch to Henry Aaron, a swing and a drive back into center field, going back towards the wall. It's back at that fence. And is it caught or not? It's a home run. The Braves are the champions of the National League. Henry Aaron just hit his 43rd home run of the year. Holy cow. They are carrying Henry Aaron away from the plate.
He excelled in that World Series too. I've got the stats right here. They win the World Series. They beat the Yankees 4-3. He hit .393, had 3 home runs, 7 RBIs in 7 games, and ends up being his only World Series title. So they go into the offseason. His wife, Barbara, who he had met while he was playing in Jacksonville, is pregnant with twins. They lose one of their twins in December. A few days after their twins are born, one of them passes away. It's a very sad time in his life. And then they roll into 1958. He has another amazing year. He hit .326 with 30 home runs. They win the pennant again, face the Yankees in another World Series. And so that one is the last World Series he'll play in. He played really well in that one as well. So I'm going to kind of go through some high marks in his career before we get to the important part of when he breaks a record. I mean, all this is important. But the story about what went down when he broke that record and the pressure he was feeling, you got to hang in there for that. In 1968, he hit his 500th home run. In 1970, he eclipsed 3,000 hits. In 1971, he gets his 600th home run. And he's the third ever at that point to reach that mark. There had been Aaron, Mays, and then himself. In 1972, he passed Willie Mays on the home run list. He drove in his 2,000th RBI, and he broke Stan Musial's record for total bases. It was about that time in 1972 when it had always been Mantle and Mays, and Aaron was really good. He was making all-star teams. He holds the record for the most all-star game appearances, in fact. But he was always kind of a level below them. But right around 1972, people started doing the math. Mays obviously was tailing off, and they knew that his days were limited. Aaron was still trucking along at a level that was strong, and they started looking at it in 1972, and they're going, wait a minute. If he just passed 600, if he averages only 33 home runs over the last 3 years, he's going to be right there at Babe Ruth. And even Mays has to take notice. Now, let's talk a little bit about Willie Mays and Hank Aaron. In 1957, there's a guy, he was a reporter, and he ended up being a big-time guy. I can't remember his name. He tells a story about Aaron is getting interviewed at the Polo Grounds, and Mays is ripping him from the side and talking trash to him, called him the N-word, told him, this and that. Why are you doing that interview? How much are you charging, boy? And he's just talking trash, and it just really upset Hank Aaron. And one thing about Hank Aaron is when you upset him, he doesn't forget very easily, but he was always very gracious. He wouldn't say things. You would have to read between the lines with him. As he approaches that record and passes Mays make these little comments about, well, if I got to play in the parks he played in, I'd be right there too. And he'd make all these remarks, and it really hurt Henry Aaron's feelings, but he never said anything. So there was this friction between them. Aaron always offered up praise for Mays. He never once came back at him. He didn't do any of that stuff, but there was some jealousy there on Mays' part. It's really pointed out in this book. So at that point in 1972, when he's approaching that, it looks like he's going to get there, he starts getting all kinds of letters of support, but he's also getting bad letters. It's getting kind of scary. So sometime in late 1972, he gets assigned a bodyguard, and this guy's with him everywhere he goes. When he wants to go back to Mobile and visit his family, he goes unannounced. When he wants to go back there and go fishing, goes unannounced. But he's still got that bodyguard with him in the fishing boat. So they became good buddies. But it wasn't just Henry. People were threatening his family. So his daughter was at Fisk University here in Nashville. She wasn't allowed to go to the parties. She had to stay in her dorm room. She was a prisoner of sorts. And that killed Hank Aaron to see his family suffer for something that he was doing. He always wanted respect. So he has been trucking along, kind of underneath the radar a little bit, but still one of the best players in the game. And he should be getting all the respect right now, all the love. And instead, there's these morons out there that want to throw hate at him and make it where his family can't even live a normal life. And that is terrible. So when you think about Henry Aaron and how gracious he was, he had every right to be as bitter as you could possibly be. What should have been a moment, and he talks about this, it should have been a moment that he could not wait to get to that pinnacle, hear all the adulation, get the utmost respect, to break the record of all records, the home run record, to break the record of the guy that's the GOAT of all time in all sports, Babe Ruth. He's going to surpass him. But because of the color of his skin, people are going to treat him like that. It's ridiculous. So in 1973, he, at the age of 39, hit 40 home runs and ends the season with 713. He's one short of tying Babe, and he's one short of breaking. So during that offseason, again, around-the-clock security with this guy. His family is living in fear. His parents are scared to death. Hank Aaron makes a comment. He says, I hope that I'm alive to see myself break the record, that I can even live to that point. I mean, that's how scared he was. So they roll into the opening game of the season. They have a 3-game series in Cincinnati, so they're not opening up at home at Fulton County. And he hits a home run in the first game in his first at bat. And so he ties the Babe. At that point, the Braves ownership are scared that he's going to break it in Cincinnati. They wanted to break it at home. They want to sell out some games. They want all the people coming to their games. They want to have that big payday. And Henry Aaron wants to do it in front of the home crowd. So they want him to sit out 2 games. I'm not sure if Hank Aaron wanted to do that. But Bowie Kuhn steps in and tells him, no, you're going to play. You got to play at least one of the final 2. He doesn't hit home runs. So they come home. So there's all this buildup. The game's on national TV. They're playing the Dodgers. And he is a nervous wreck. His manager is Ed Matthews, who played with him back in the day. So it's kind of a brotherly, fatherly kind of deal, coach deal. But Eddie Matthews really cared about him as a person because he played with him. So he's trying to shield the reporters. He closed off the locker room an hour before the game, which was unusual. Normally it's 30 minutes to give Hank some rest because the reporters are just on him and on him. And he tells Eddie Matthews, he said, I'm going to break it today. Dusty Baker was somebody who was really close to him on that team, and he told him the same thing. He's going to get it over with today. He just wanted to get it over with. So at the moment where he gets up to bat, and he is up to bat, that guy that's guarding him, his personal protector, is in the camera well of the dugout, and he has a binocular case. He has a pistol in that case, and he is going to use it if anybody tries to harm him. They've got FBI, they've got police stationed around looking for snipers, worrying about somebody's going to shoot him and not allow him to pass Babe Ruth's record. He had received the most mail in history at that point. The U.S. Postal Service gave him a plaque. He received 930,000 pieces of mail. Remember, this is for email. There's no internet. So he was receiving letter after letter after letter, some hating, some loving, but some scary. And so it was actually an insane time. So he gets up to bat. Al Downing is pitching. He's an African-American guy, and he throws him a pitch, and here's the call right here.
And a standing ovation for Henry Aaron. So the confrontation for the second time. Aaron walked in the second inning. He means the tying run at the plate now. So we'll see what Downing does. Al at the belt, delivers, and he's low. Ball 1. And that just adds to the pressure. The crowd booing. Downing has to ignore the sound effects and stay a professional and pitch his game. 1 ball and no strikes. Aaron waiting. The outfield deep and straight away. Fastball is a high drive into deep left center field. Buckner goes back to the fence. It is gone. Moment for baseball. What a marvelous moment for Atlanta and the state of Georgia. What a marvelous moment for the country and the world. A black man is getting a standing ovation in the Deep South for breaking a record of an all-time baseball idol. And it is a great moment for all of us, and particularly for Henry Aaron, who was met at home plate not only by every member of the Braves, but by his father and mother. He threw his arms around his father, and as he left the home plate area, his mother came running across the grass, threw her arms around his neck, kissed him for all she was worth.
All right, there it is. Y'all have seen that at least 100 times, I'm sure. Probably more. I'm a little too young to have seen that live. I might have seen it. I was 5 years old. I wasn't even 5. I was 4. So no way I'm remembering that. But I'd always known about it. So when the home run goes over into the bullpen, the pitcher, Tom House, catches the ball. He takes off sprinting through the fence, and he gets to home plate, and he talks in the book about, I get there, and his mother is hugging him. And Hank Aaron was a man that they respected so much. He was kind of a stoic figure and somebody they respected. And he gets there and he sees a big crocodile tear in his eye, and his mom's still hugging him, and he's got the ball in his hand. He first thought is, Henry Aaron is crying. And he doesn't really understand it in the moment. He thinks it's happiness. But in reality, Henry Aaron is crying because he's just glad to have it over with. Like, it is over. I did it, done. The other thing about this, the two kids that come running out of the bleachers and run up right around the shortstop area and are patting him on the back, there is a split second in time where the bodyguard that's down in that camera well was reaching for his gun inside his binocular case. Think about it for a second. If he would have made the wrong choice, he could have shot one of those kids dead, and how that moment would have changed. But that was how electrically charged that situation was. So he comes in home. Tom House talks about the fact that later Dusty Baker tells him that the reason his mother was holding on to him so long was because she was trying to shield him from a sniper's bullet. She was scared somebody was going to shoot him. She was happy, but she was going to hold on to him and shield him, doing what a mother would do with their son. And so when you really think about that, that's what was going on in Hank Aaron's life during that moment. Jimmy Wynn was playing center field for the Dodgers that night. He's a man of color. And his dad had been a great ball player growing up, but he never had an opportunity because he was a black guy to play in the major leagues. He had always dreamt of that. And so in that moment, Jimmy Wynn said it's going through his mind what this means to the black race, that a man of color has broken Babe Ruth's all-time record. And after the game back then, you weren't supposed to fraternize with the opponents. He made his way to the locker room just to shake his hand and tell him thank you for what he had done. So that was a big-time deal right there. Hank Aaron had never really asked for spotlight. He always thought he should have got a little more of it, but he just did his job every day, kept his nose clean, went in there and just performed for his team. And so this is the culmination of that. So what this video did, the one we've seen 1,000 times, it froze him in time as a kind of an overweight, older guy in his 40s. You don't really see what an athlete he was, what a great arm he had, the range he had in the outfield back in the day. So he's forever frozen in time as this figure, kind of like Babe Ruth in some of those videos where he's kind of a pot-belly guy with the skinny legs running around, and people go, well, what kind of athlete was that guy? Babe Ruth was a great athlete before, he got a little older. So same thing with Hank Aaron. So Hank Aaron goes on through the 74 season. He hits a home run in the final game of 74. He had hit a home run in the first game, but he's starting to wane a little bit. Skills are going down like they're supposed to when you get a little older. And he decides he's not going to retire, but he can't play in the field anymore. He's, just not fast enough. He's a liability on defense. So Bud Selig, who he had gotten to know when he lived in Milwaukee, Bud was a big car dealership. His dad had a car dealership. He was the one that got the cars for all the Milwaukee Braves players, and they had been friends for a long time. Bud Selig by now is owning the Brewers, and he signs Hank Aaron to come in and be the DH. He lasts 2 more years, ends up with 755 home runs, then he retires. At that point, he's not sure what he's going to do. He is in retirement. He ends up working for the Braves in the front office a little bit, but he kind of was hurt that the Braves never asked him to be a coach, very similar to what Babe Ruth experienced. So going back again, how was Jackie Robinson the alpha and Hank Aaron was the omega? Jackie was the first Negro League player and the first black player to integrate the major leagues. Hank Aaron was the last Negro League player to ever suit up in the major leagues. So the guy he had idolized, who he just dreamt of being on the same field with, is the guy that he took the baton and he kept it going, and he lasted all those years and was able to retire. And he dealt with so much racism at the end, more than he had ever dealt with in the beginning. So where Jackie came in and dealt with all of it in the beginning and throughout, Aaron kind of finished it. And now the times, we can't even imagine somebody not wanting somebody to break a record because of the color of their skin. So that was what absolutely happened. Hank Aaron talks about when he was in his second year, they went on like a barnstorm deal with the Dodgers after spring training. And I believe they were in Nashville. And he said Jackie Robinson really wouldn't come out of his hotel, but he was able to be in Jackie's room with him and Don Newcomb and who else was it? And Campy. And he just said, I was in the corner watching them play cards, and I could not believe it. I kept having to pinch myself that I was in the same room as Jackie Robinson. So let's get down to the brass tacks right here. So what did Hank Aaron think about Barry Bonds breaking his record? He never came out publicly and bashed him. He took the high road like he always did. He would not follow him and see him break the record like Stan Musial did when he passed Stan Musial in all-time hits. He didn't do that. When he hit his 3,000th hit, I think it was, Stan Musial made sure he was there because they had a really close friendship. They had even gone to Vietnam together and talked to the troops and things like that. Hank Aaron wasn't going to do that for Bonds. In fact, he finally relented and said he would do a video that they would play on the big screen at the game when the record was broken. That is the final thing he said he would do. And it took him like 30 attempts to get that done. And during that, some kid that was on the crew there said, Mr. Aaron, can you not show a little bit of excitement? This is going to be a big moment when he breaks your record. People are going to be excited, and you don't sound excited. And he looked at the kid again. This is in the book. He looks at the kid and goes, what do I have to be excited about, young man? And that was that. And you think, well, he was just a grumpy old man. Nope. When Ken Griffey Jr. hit his 600th home run, he did a video, and his video for that was the exact opposite. Later on, after Bonds had broke the record, he came out on the record and said that he thinks anybody that was doing steroids, there should be an asterisk by their totals. So he absolutely hated it. I hate it because here's this man of integrity who went through hell to get what he got. And some guy comes in, sticks needles in his arm, puts drops under his tongue, does all that stuff, and is a complete jerk the entire time he's doing it, and then breaks his record. So those records that used to be really, just on a pedestal that we all knew, they're not there anymore. And they were broken by Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and A-Rod, and then you had Bonds. So anyways, that's my little soapbox. I've talked long enough. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive in Henry Aaron's story. We're going to look at some cards now. I got to say this too. A lot of people talk about Henry Aaron's home run totals. And that takes away from the fact that he's in top 3 in a lot of major statistics. So 755 home runs second. 3,771 hits is third all time. In fact, if you took away his home runs, he still had 3,000 hits. 2,997 RBIs, which is the record. 6,856 total bases is a record. The next guy is Musial, and he had 722 more than Musial, which amounts to 12 miles of distance with the bases. So it's at a point that will never be broken. 2,174 runs is ties him for 4th. He won the MVP in 57, had 2 batting titles, 56 and 59. In fact, he would have had a whole lot more batting titles if he didn't change his swing going for home runs early in his career. 4 RBI crowns, 25 All-Star appearances, most all-time, 4-time home run leader, 4-time RBI leader. In the postseason, 17 games, he had 11 runs, 16 RBIs, 6 home runs, won 3 Gold Gloves. Would have won more, but a kid named Roberto Clemente came in and kind of took over that right field Gold Glove spot. He's first in extra base hits with 1,477. He never hit more than 47 home runs in a season. He never had that 50 home run season, but he was just constant. He had 20 seasons of 20 home runs or more. He's one of 5 players to post at least 8 40 home run seasons, and he's 5th in WAR for all position players. Dude was a beast. He is not just a home run guy. He hit for average, he hit for power, he hit gaps, he ran the bases. He was an awesome ball player. So just to take him and put him into one category as the home run king is really kind of unfair. So we're going to get to the cards now. Sorry that I had to come back in, but I didn't want to leave that out because it's too important to show what a well-rounded player he is. All right, welcome back. The first run I did when I got back in the hobby 5 years ago was I did a Hank Aaron run, and I discovered eBay, and it was like a kid in a candy shop. But anyways, this is a nice one. It's the 76 Topps record breaker card. Most runs batted in a lifetime. You can see Aaron, Ruth, Gehrig, Cobb, Musial, Fox, Mays, Ott, Williams, Simmons, Robinson, Banks, Goslin, Killebrew. That's a pretty big list right there with Mantle at the bottom, and with 2,262 RBIs. So, you know, home runs are great, base hits are great, but getting base hits or a run batted in is what it's all about. That's a team deal, and love the Yellow Sox here. But he, you know, an older Aaron there hitting. Again, he loved the people of Milwaukee. So here we got the 76 Topps. I was a little too young to see him play. I don't remember seeing that, as I mentioned earlier. I used to love, though, when I was a kid, getting these cards with guys like when I was a kid, Yastrzemski and Lou Brock and some of those guys have been around forever, and they had the microscopic numbers. But you can see right here, home runs 745. So he had 10 home runs his final season that obviously aren't on this card. But, yeah, just a great all-around player. Here we got the 75 card, his first card with the Brewers. And got the great color. Again, got all the stats on the back. The 75 Mini, which when I was a kid, I thought these were really cool because they were different, obviously. Same card, only smaller. And then we got the 74 Topps. Now, this card right here is his base card. It doesn't really look like it, but it is. They released this with the idea that he was definitely breaking the record. And so took a chance, but obviously he was coming back. He was going to get at least 1 to tie, and you would think he would get 2 to break. But Hank becomes baseball's all-time home run king in 1974. So, again, that was preemptive on their part. We got the 73 Topps. I love this card because when I was a kid, I remember, I think I bought this card, not this particular card, but I got one like it at the flea market. And so I love the old uniforms with the feather on the sleeve. And by the way, when I started out this run, there were prerequisites. One, it had to be a PSA because I wanted them all to match. And I wanted them all in at least a 5 because at that point in my collecting journey, I didn't understand that not all 5s were the same. And I'll show you that as we go along right here. But that's what I did. Beautiful card right here. Love the 72 tops with the banner at the top. 71 top. This is a great card, actually. It's a little off-center top to bottom, but I love the black border. And they didn't put the big, long list, but had the picture on the back. 70 tops. A lot of people make fun of this card image. I'm not really sure why Topps chose this as their image, but obviously they did. So, anyways, very colorful back. 69 tops. And he looks pretty intense in this picture right here. And the 68 tops, which they did what Topps like to do and use the same image 2 years in a row. So not really sure. 69 is the year I was born. So just put that in perspective there. This is a 68. Now I got this later on after my rules were meant to be broken, but this is my only SGC. And this is a Milton Bradley, as you can see. So what's the difference? Let's look at them together. Actually, I got it out of order there. So they look very similar on the front, but the back is where it's different. A little different on the tone of the color. And I'm sure there's other minor differences that I'm sure y'all will let me know in the comments. The 67, I haven't done any of the Venezuelans either, but this one is terribly, the way it's holdered. It's got the little internal baggy deal, but great card. 66, I really like the 66s, honestly. I like the card design. The 65, and hang on, guys, till the end, please, because that's when I'm going to show my big monster card. The 64 tops. I like this card design as well. 63. 62. I really like the 62s. I just bought a 62 signed Aaron. It has not gotten to me yet. I'll share that on a future episode. I'm very proud of it. 61. 60 All-Star. I didn't get all the outside the main deal cards. Now this is a 60. This is an example of when I first started collecting. I was just trying to get at least a 5, and I didn't really understand that a 6 miscut. I got this on eBay, and I really didn't see that it was this off center, but it has some really sharp corners, but very miscut. So this is the most miscut card I think I have in my entire collection, but it tells a story of my collecting journey. Like this 40 News card. I think these are cool, these All-Star cards. 1960 or 59. The 59 cards, really like these designs too. I know some people don't. They're very simple but effective. The 58 Topps Fence Busters with Dale Crandall, Eddie Matthews, Aaron, and Adcock. Pretty good lineup. Here we got the All-Star 58 All-Star selection card. Really love this design of these cards as well. This is the 58 with the yellow letter, so it's a little bit more scarce. Got pretty good eye appeal on it for a 2. Here's the white letter, so you can see the difference. Really like the green background too. 57, again, this was his best season. This one, I had never noticed as a kid, but the image is flipped, the negative. You can't tell because the M goes both ways, but you can see the 44 is backwards right there. So And then we're getting into the landscape style. So this is the 56 with Willie Mays sliding in a Milwaukee Braves uniform. The 55 Bowman. Really like this card. Some people don't like the 55 Bowmans. I do. And the 55 Tops. So the next card is very special to me. All right, here's the last one, and this one's special. This is a rookie era signature. See the H? See how it curls up? Normally his H, you can see it on his facsimile, it curls a little different than this one, but this is his rookie signature. A lot like Mantle, his signature changed. So not only is this a rookie card, it's pretty centered. I mean, it's got some honest corners on it. But as you can see, it ain't graded, obviously. It's got a little spot on the back. But what's really cool about this, I've looked. I don't know there's another rookie signature on a rookie card in existence than this card right here. And it's JSA certified. I was going to send it to PSA, but I wanted to do my episode first so I could get it on here. I looked up his rookie signature on his rookie contract has this signature right here. If you look up on eBay right now, there's a ball. It's a 54 Milwaukee Braves team ball. It's got that H on it. There is not another one that I know of in existence. Now, sure, he signed it across his nose. I don't really care because autographed cards, the scarcity level is up there on them. They're all usually less than 1% of the other graded card population. But then you add this one, and this card is so special. And so once I get into that PSA slab, I wish PSA would show all the signed cards, but most of them, if you go on eBay right now, you can buy them, and they got the blue Sharpie, much like this one. So this is a Topps reprints, kind of a heritage card, autograph issue, and it was from 2000, but you can see how his H was. And it's that big fat Sharpie. Most of his signatures on cards are in the big fat Sharpie. So I like the ballpoint, but then you add the fact that it has his rookie signature on his rookie card. So this card right here was signed 2 years after he was standing on that train platform with that satchel beside him. Put that in perspective. So it's a very special card. I love this card. It's one of the most special cards in my entire collection, and it's one of those that I honestly don't see myself ever giving up. And I know you've heard me say that before, but I honestly believe it. So I appreciate you watching, and remember, Tony loves his baseball cards. Tony loves